You're listening to the Alaska Real Estate Podcast. I'm Chris Story, your host for great adventures in real estate. Today you're going to hear from Chris Gosselin. He's back in Washington, D.C. with the National Association of Realtors. Plus, we'll check in with Grant Shields over in Kodiak, Sara Johnson up in Fairbanks, and courtesy of Deborah Lysick and the Kachemak Board of Realtors, a special audio treat just for you realtors. Don't miss it. It'll keep you smiling all day. I want to thank Alaska USA Title for making this program possible. You know, Crystal and the entire team at Alaska USA Title serve both you and your clients' needs. Alaska USA Title, open to close your business. And they're online at alaskausatitle.com. Join me as we fire up the AAR jet and head off to Washington, D.C.
I'm Chris Gosselin. I'm the Regional Political Director for about 10 states, including Alaska. And in that role, I travel around the country and speak to state and local associations about what's going on here in Washington, D.C. And then when it comes time for a campaign season, we try and identify the members of Congress who have really been leaders on our issues and do what we can to make sure that they come back and speak some sense amidst everything else that's going on here. So that's what I do in a nutshell, but unfortunately have not had the chance to make it up to Alaska yet. But I've been talking to your association leadership, and I think some point early next year I'll be able to make it up there.
And what's going on in D.C. that we need to know about?
This session of Congress is going to take a break on Friday as we send all of the members of Congress and senators back to their home states and districts for the August recess, which is always a happy time here in D.C. When the members of Congress take off. So right now they're trying to kind of clean up some of the unfinished business. At this point, most of the work that's been done on housing is going to take a pause. And there's a few things that have been moving pretty quickly so far this year, and they're happening in sort of parallel tracks, which has kept us really on our toes here in Washington. The first that I'll talk about is the prospect of tax reform, and this has been something that we've been watching for several years, and now I think we're starting to see a little bit more momentum on tax reform and where that might go. The most interesting motion on that issue has been on the Senate side. The chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, which is the committee that oversees tax reform, had an unusual idea that he would ask each member of the Senate, so all 100 senators, to write a letter to the Senate Finance Committee asking them, let's pretend all tax provisions have been taken off the table and you're starting from scratch. They called it a blank slate approach. What would you put back into the tax code? Keeping in mind that anything that you put back into the tax code might raise rates if you were to add extra provisions back in, since everything costs money. So as you may know, we did an NAR call for action on this particular issue, and we focused on the mortgage interest deduction, though of course there are several other tax provisions that we care strongly about, including the deductibility of state and local taxes, which property taxes is the biggest component of that we're concerned with, and then of course the ability for homeowners to sell their primary residence without having to pay a capital gains tax up to a certain amount, which is a big deal for especially retirees that want to downsize so they don't get hit with a large tax bill. So we had a big effort, and we asked all of our members to sign a call for action, which went out to each senator. Alaska actually has the fourth highest response rate of any state, so we're pretty proud that you all had such a great response on that. With more than 1 in 5 Alaska realtors responding. So we're really pleased to see. Actually, it was 27%, more than 1 in 4. So very pleased to see that response out of Alaska, and it paid off. Senator Begich is one of a few members who actually released their letter, and he was very explicit in his letter talking about tax reform as it pertains to real estate, both residential and commercial, and explicitly mentioned the provisions that we had asked him to do so. So that was a really great result based upon a strong effort from realtors in Alaska. Senator Murkowski also was very supportive of us. She has not released her letter publicly, and there was no requirement that they do so. For 50 years was what they decided. In 50 years they would unseal the letters so that the public could read them. But I guess that's what we've come to expect. But Senator Murkowski said that she had a strongly supported our position, and she has in the past. Meanwhile, things have been moving pretty quickly on the House side. And it's been on separate issues. While the tax reform has also had some traction on the House, most of the action in real estate world has been around the housing finance system. There's a bill that was introduced earlier this year called the PATH Act, which is the Protecting American Taxpayers and Homeowners Act, which is sponsored by Congressman Jeb Hensarling from Texas. We're very concerned with several of the provisions that are in this bill because it really pulls the rug out from underneath the housing finance system that's been in place for several decades. NAR has been very concerned for a long time about the excesses, especially in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and some of the poor decision making that we saw in the last decade. But our policy has been that there should be some sort of federal role in the conventional mortgage market. And the FHA should be broadly accessible and subject to responsible underwriting, but it should be broadly accessible. The bill that's been considered in the House Financial Services Committee would seriously jeopardize both of those concepts. On the FHA side, it would completely change the role of FHA, making many borrowers ineligible for FHA financing. And it would restrict it completely to first-time homebuyers. So that's something that we have serious concerns with, given that FHA has such a large percentage of the housing market right now. Clearly, we want that to go down as private capital comes back into the marketplace, but we don't want to see the rug get pulled out from underneath it. And then on the conventional side, we support seeing Fannie and Freddie evolve into something new that is not going to cost the taxpayers money in the long run. But we do think that there should be some level of federal guarantee behind whatever entity comes in their place, and that should be something that's fully paid for by the folks who are receiving that guarantee. So it'd be something like maybe an FDIC model where the government is just sort of a backstop in case of a panic like we had in 2007, 2008, but that's a fully paid for guarantee that's not like the type of taxpayer bailouts that we've seen in the past. And what we're really concerned with there is the availability of a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. What we've heard time and time again from folks in the mortgage finance industry is that the federal guarantee is really what makes that 30-year fixed rate mortgage available and possible. And consumers time and time again have also said that the 30-year fixed rate mortgage is their preferred mortgage instrument. So we want to make sure that that's available to future home buyers.
How is Don Young? Where is Don Young on some of these issues, Congressman Young?
Congressman Young has been very strong on our issues historically, and he's not on the Financial Services Committee, so his involvement in these types of issues is not really it's not as big a priority for him, just because his focus is elsewhere. But he's been great every time that we've gone to him and asked for help. He signed on to our resolution last Congress to protect the mortgage interest deduction, and he was also helpful on the qualified residential mortgage proposal, which would have put a 20% down payment requirement on conventional mortgages. We went to him and asked him to sign on to that letter, and he did it right away. So he's been very strong. Now, I have to say the Alaska delegation is not only have they been very helpful on pretty much every issue we've gone to them to discuss, they're one of the more bipartisan delegations, which I think is really refreshing. And you see that with especially on the Senate side with both Senator Murkowski and Senator Begich. They're not afraid to talk to the other side of the aisle. And I think that's really refreshing, especially when you consider some other members of the Senate where they can't stand to be in the same room as somebody on the other side. So right. It's always nice for us as an organization, which is very business-minded. We like to see compromise, and we like to see people working together. And I think it's been really refreshing to see that in Alaska's delegation.
They're working for the Realtor Party.
Well, that's, I think, really important. We came up with the concept of the Realtor Party several years ago, and I think that's been our sort of guiding principle when it comes to trying to determine who we're going to support. Is who are the people who are not necessarily thinking about their party affiliation, and they're not necessarily doing what the leadership of their committee or their caucus is telling them to do. They're doing what's right for the real estate industry, and and our issues really do transcend party lines. I think you'll find on these sort of housing finance issues, the Republicans tend to be a little bit more critical of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the federal government's role in the housing finance system. And then if you flip to the other side and you look at some of the provisions on in the environment and energy labeling as it pertains to homes, the Republicans tend to be much more helpful on that issue, and it's a little bit harder to bring Democrats along. But those are both examples of areas where your senators and your member of Congress have not been afraid to switch party lines, or at least be open to the other side of the aisle and have worked with us. And I think that's something that, like I said, is really refreshing for us in Washington. When you see so much partisan infighting, it's just great when you have a delegation that actually is willing to listen to the other side.
All right, Chris Gosselin, thank you so much for your efforts for the National Association of Realtors and taking time out to be part of this podcast.
Oh, well, my pleasure, and I'd be happy to do it again anytime, and I'm looking forward to getting up to Alaska sometime in early 2014.
Alaska Housing Finance Corporation is your partner in Alaska real estate. Their mission is to provide safe, efficient, and affordable housing, but also they provide education all over Alaska with the Home Choice class, and every time you hear an AHFC ad on the radio or television, Alaska Housing Finance Corporation is promoting your industry. AHFC.us for more information, and about the Energy Rebate Program, check out akrebate.com. Convention's just around the corner. Now let's go over to Kodiak and then all the way up to Fairbanks for some convention insight.
The real estate conventions we do annually here in the state, I'll tell you what, I've been at this for a while now, probably 17 years, and I don't make it every year, but I try to. I make it at least every other year, and I'll tell you what, to begin with, there's an absolutely excellent way to get all of your education, which is required to maintain your licenses, as you well know. So that's one thing we like to get out of the way here in Kodiak. We get down to the convention, but aside from getting some excellent education, great speakers, motivational speakers, get excited about real estate. If you're starting to lag a little bit, go hit one of those state conventions. I'll tell you what, to get your blood pumped. So that's one of the reasons. It's a great networking opportunity with the other brokers and licensees in the state. I've got some great relationships. I met Chris, there you go, at one of the conventions in Homer. Had a wonderful time and found out what a wild and crazy guy Chris is, but we won't get into that right now. Some really good folks around the state go to these on a regular basis, and there's a good reason for that, and that's networking, education, great speakers, some good stuff there.
Sara Johnson with Yukon Title Company. So as an affiliate, we go to the convention, I think, for different reasons than the realtors do. We don't need the continuing education or the hours, but we do see the value in mixing with our realtors, who are our customers, outside of the day-to-day in closings or talking about title report type of situations. So we go down there and we get to spend time with them. We get to do fun stuff. We, do the awards banquets and do the dancing and do the fun games and, go have drinks and dinner with our realtors instead of just being so serious with them all the time during the work week.
Before we go, I want to thank Sandy Ehrenman for her tireless work on behalf of Alaskan Realtors. And, of course, she's our executive producer right here on the Alaska Real Estate Podcast. Thank you, Sandy. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed. I'll leave you with this hilarious audio courtesy of Deborah Lysick and the Kachemak Board. Check it out.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a realtor. God said, I need somebody that will get up before dawn with the dedication of the sun, risk time, energy, and investment for no salary or guarantee, work long hours on the street, prepare and deliver presentations, serve and attend to others' emergencies, then stay out past midnight at a meeting of the school board. So God made a realtor. God needed somebody mentally tough that could wake up unemployed every day, yet gentle enough to have compassion for others. Someone that can build a bridge between people and technology. Someone to arrive home nightly in the dark to accommodate others' time, tell them, thank you for the opportunity, and mean it. So God made a realtor. God said, I need somebody that can sell like Carnegie, make contacts and write contracts, handle objections and deal with rejections, and who can finish her 40-hour week by Wednesday noon, then weary from contingencies and people's eccentricities and volatilities, put in another 40 hours and sacrifice a weekend too. So God made a realtor. God needed somebody that does not measure their work in hours, but by the satisfaction of their clients, someone to handle emotions unemotionally, to meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. God said, I need somebody strong enough to knock doors and be ignored, direct mail and email, run ads, deliver notepads, Yelp and blog and work like a dog, make calls and get up from falls, and who will stop her efforts when called upon to mend the broken spirit of a colleague or client. So God made a realtor. It had to be somebody who'd honor ethics and integrity and not cut corners, to keep their head when all about them are losing theirs, and trust themselves where others doubt. Someone that can hold on when there is nothing left inside except the will which says, hold on. Who'd laugh and then sigh, and then respond with smiling eyes when her son says he wants to spend his life doing what Mom does. So God made a realtor.